So, I want to share with you 10 things that, as a multi passionate person, I had to get rid of in order to move forward in my life and actually pursue the multiple passions and interests that I have. So, number one, this might be something you can relate to, but the first thing I had to quit was believing that it was wrong to have multiple interests. Now, for some of you, maybe that's not a big deal because you were always encouraged to have lots of interests. I mean, when I was a kid, I was definitely encouraged to have and pursue a lot of interests. In fact, I think a lot of kids are. But what happens as you get older is our world and our society, they try to direct you into having one thing. And I remember it's so weird. Like, I remember one time when I was about 12 asking this person that was older, he was kind of a stranger, just like a friend of the family. And I just said, what do you think? Do you think I should pursue lots of things, or do you think I should just try to do one? And I still remember it. He said, if it were me, I think I would try to figure out which is the one thing that I was really passionate about, and then just like direct my entire life work into that thing. And so I heard that. And then basically for the next, 25 years of my life, I thought that was good advice. And I tried to figure out what that thing was. I was always trying to figure out my path. And then a few years ago, I found out that expression, jack of all trades, master of none, actually has another part to it, which is oftentimes better than a master of one. And of course, I'm not here. Nobody's better than anyone else. But, in certain instances, it can be really helpful to have somebody that's good at a lot of things than just somebody that's really good at accounting. Like, if I were in the apocalypse, I think I would pick the person that could do quite a few things to be on my side. Anyway, once I kind of got rid of this idea that I have to be good at one thing, or I have to know what my purpose is and all that, it kind of gave me a lot more latitude to really embrace all my interests and realize that actually one day that could be really useful in coming together to do the thing that I'm most excited about. Number two, worrying about quitting. I've often worried about starting a new interest because what if I start to do it and then I get bored of it and then I quit it? So recently I had this epiphany, there are so many good books and so many amazing television shows now and movies now. There's just simply not enough time to consume all of those. So I gave myself permission to read a book, and if I wasn't really into it, even after 50 pages, I don't have to keep reading it. I can get rid of it and I can leave it alone and read something else. So the same applies for anything I do in my life. If I start to pursue an interest, if it's not really making me excited or lighting me up, then I give myself permission to let it go. So of course it's a balance. If you start working on a big business or something that you're starting, or you're writing a novel or a screenplay, you're going to run into times where it's just not going as well or as smoothly, and you're just not feeling as inspired. So for me, it kind of comes down to how many shoulds am I saying to myself while I'm pursuing this project? If I'm finding myself saying, oh, I really should get to work on my book. Oh, I really should get to work on that screenplay. Well, it's a balance. You'll have to find out for yourself, of course. But for me, I've realized that life is too short to not pursue anything that's going to allow me to stay in a state of flow and really enjoy myself while I'm pursuing that project. I'm going to get to the topic of shoulds a little bit later and we'll break that down. But number three, the next thing that I stopped doing is I got rid of my good girl persona and good girl identity. So this topic may be a lot to unpack in this little episode. So I will just say that in the past, I believed that I had to be good and behave a certain way in order to be worthy of love and to be worthy of being happy and living a life according to what I wanted. It took me a long time to realize I was even allowed to choose the kind of life that I wanted. So when I used to have a blog, I used to have a cooking blog, I chose a certain persona for that. And it was a part of me, like it was the part of me that really loved beautiful things, beautiful food. My kids, when I took pictures of my kids, because I was a mommy blogger, they never were wearing like logo t-shirts or anything. And I would talk about teaching my kids manners and all this. And so that was a part of me. And that persona, it wasn't like I was faking, but it was certainly, I was like showing a part of me, but not the rest of me. But it's like now that's not the me that I want to show the world anymore. And I think it's kind of freeing. Like the version of me that I would like people to see is the version of me that can be funny at times. So basically what I quit is worrying about what my church leaders would think of me. We've got a lot we're going to talk about here on this channel. All right, so what does that mean? It might mean that you might hear me swear on occasion.
You really think I ought to swear?
And that's actually kind of funny because I don't think I've ever sworn in public to anyone that's ever heard me outside of my family. So yikes, here we go. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right, that brings us to the next one, number 4, which is perfectionism. Now, perfectionism, as a person who was raised Mormon, that was a whole thing, which I sort of just covered in that last bit. But now I'm talking about perfectionism in terms of the art that I make or what I put out into the world. So I really love to make things that are beautiful. So basically trying to make something that's perfect and beautiful and perfectly wonderful all the time, that was getting in the way of making anything. All right, so the next one, number 5, I stopped saying the word should. In the words of Marissa Peer, should is shit. Did you see what I did there? It was a little callback to earlier.
Damn it, George, swear.
When I first heard this idea that I should stop saying the word should, it was such a game changer because apparently I was living my life by the word should. Like it was like my whole worldview was I should be doing things for other people. I should be serving all the time. I should be this, I should be that. But I was never really considering what made me happy. As I was really resisting this idea of getting rid of saying should all the time, I was like, well, why should I ever worry about myself or what I want? Like it was a shift. It was a big shift. So because I used the word should so much, it was a matter of using some other words to swap out in its place. So I started to use the phrase, this is something I get to do, or this is something that I want to do. So whenever I find myself saying should about something, like for example, I should record this YouTube video. If I can swap out the words get to or want to in place of should, then I know that I'm going in the right direction. Like today, I get to record this YouTube video and I'm really happy doing it. And so it just changes the whole perspective and kind of changes the energy around so many things. Okay, number 6, negative self-talk. I quit negative self-talk as best as I could. I'm still working on it all the time. And I think this is a big one and one we will probably talk about more in another episode. Now, over the years, I've gotten much better at not saying a lot of negative self-talk, but I would say that recently, most of the negative self-talk is about what I create or what I make or what I'm willing to put out into the world. I have a particularly vicious internal editor when it comes to writing or anything like that. So this is something that has definitely been an important thing for me to let go of and to quit. And so what do I do instead? Well, this one's kind of fun. Basically, I've retrained myself to being as kind as possible. Like I think of this family friend that we had, they used to say, like when I was a kid, they would come over and we would just start pulling stuff out of our bedrooms and doing show and tell with them. And they were so patient and so just loving. And they would just say things like, oh, Jamie, that's wonderful. You are marvelous. Oh, what an incredibly gifted kid you are. That's so great. Thank you for showing me. Like that. It was intense and I loved it. My parents were great too, but it was something about this, like these people on the outside that were telling me these things, and it just did wonders for my self-esteem. Well, not everybody's going to have that, and I certainly don't have that now. I've learned that you have to do it to yourself. Okay. And we're going to talk about more about this in another episode, but it's a huge game changer when you can learn to love and appreciate yourself in that way. And it's certainly a really necessary thing to do because it's a great way to replace the negative self-talk. And the thing is usually when we're being mean to ourselves and saying mean things, we're being pretty dramatic. But a lot of times when we're learning to be nicer to ourselves, we'll say things that are pretty mediocre, like, oh, you're a good person. I'm a good person. I'm trying. I'm doing my best. That's about as dramatic as it gets. Or I'm fine. I'm okay. I'm going to be okay. But Marissa Peer, the one that says that should is shit, she's the one that also says you got to talk to your mind as dramatically as you would talk to it when you're being negative, because your mind will listen more. So for example, you got to talk to yourself the way my good friends, our family friends when I was a kid, the way they talk to me. So that's what I do to myself. I say, Jamie, you're amazing. Oh my gosh, look at you. You're doing so great. Oh my gosh, that's fascinating. So whatever I can do to talk like that to myself, it's really made things so much better. So the 7th thing I quit, or still working on quitting, but I'm in the process of quitting, and that is comparing myself to others. So one of the traps we can fall into, especially as multipotentialites or people with lots of interests, is we will sometimes look at somebody who has really niched down or honed in on one craft, and we're trying to get good at that particular skill in addition to like 8 other skills kind of all at the same time. And we look at the person that's really great at public speaking, let's say, and we look at them and then we compare ourselves to that. Now, I think we can get good at all the things, and it's a matter of balance and timing and all sorts of things that we'll talk about more in other episodes. I've started to think of myself more like a steam train. Somebody's got to stoke the fire and somebody's got to pull the brakes out in front of the train. And I don't really know what goes into getting a steam train to really get going. I just know it's going to be really slow at the beginning because there's a lot of moving parts that all have to start getting going gradually. And eventually, if I'm kind to myself and keep working with myself, eventually that train is going to get going and we're going to get momentum. And then I'll be creating things the way I want. And also, it's okay to not be as good as somebody else. So one of the people I particularly tend to compare myself to is the YouTube channel Life of Riza, because it's amazing. And she does such beautiful things. And I'm like, oh, I want to do the things that she's making. But sometimes I just have to also kind of pull back and say, is that really what I'm trying to create right now? Like, am I really trying to become the most incredible cinematographer right now? Now, if the answer is yes, it might be, okay, so for now, maybe I should pull back on some of the other things I'm trying to get great at and really focus on having beautiful cinematography. But what I'm trying to remember to ask myself when I start to go down this road of comparison is I need to ask myself, okay, is that what's really lighting me up right now, or something else lighting me up? So like right now, what's really lighting me up is actually talking about having multiple interests and multiple passions, because this is something that's been something both beautiful and something challenging in my life, and I want to share with all of you. But I think it's easy for most people to fall into that comparison trap, and it is the thief of joy, and I think a lot of us do it. That brings me to number 8, which is to stop scrolling, particularly on Instagram or any kind of short form content. Now, I love YouTube so much, but I was finding that I was getting into the trap of watching shorts, like dozens and dozens in a day. I found this really easy fix for it. So you just open the app and go on your homepage, and anywhere you see a short, you just click on the 3 dots in the top right corner and click not interested. And you might have to scroll through it for a little while because there are lots of different spots where they put the shorts throughout your home feed. But if you Just take your time and go through them all. Eventually, YouTube will take the hint and stop showing you shorts for a little while. But it was enough time for me to get over my habit of watching too many shorts. Number 9, overthinking. Okay. I do this one a lot. And just the fact that I'm talking to you right now and that I've been writing scripts for these YouTube videos that I'm writing, I have been doing a lot of overthinking. Do I really want to talk about that right now? How many followers am I going to get? What if nobody likes this video? What if it's not related to the topic that I said it was going to be related to? On and on it goes. Overthinking, I think the antidote for that for me is definitely meditation. And then also kind of closing my eyes and getting centered, and sometimes even touching my chest right here. It helps me to kind of connect more to my heart. But even I've heard, particularly for like older souls, they can spend a lot of time in their heart chakra or their third eye, apparently. And that's where a lot of overthinking can happen. This is what I've heard from this great YouTuber named Marie Manucherry. She's great. She suggests that you bring your focus and attention more to the lower half of your body. And so that's something that I've started to do. So I'll get really quiet and either try to connect to my heart or even try to like sort of connect to my whole body, particularly like either my feet or my legs, just kind of tuning into that part of my body. And it kind of, it like sort of calms down the overthinking and gets the brain to kind of shut off just a little bit so I can hear inspiration. Okay, moving on. So number 10, and by the way, we do have a bonus one that I'm going to be talking about. But number 10 is living in the past or living in the future. So when I was a kid, I was constantly wanting to be older so that I could do this thing and that thing. And then now that I'm older and I have kids that are grown, almost completely all grown and out of the house, I tend to look at my phone and look at their pictures when they were kids and have a good cry every now and then. And it's not like a happy cry. It's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that they're grown. It's a mess. And I'm spending too much time kind of in the past or in the future. So if you're familiar at all with the book, The Power of Now, I highly recommend it. This is something that really helped me and also helps me because it's easy to forget. It's easy for me to get caught up in the past or in the future. And so when I'm able to really connect with the now and the present moment, some of that other stuff and the overthinking and everything, it just sort of falls away. So it's a practice of like coming into the now. So here's a really quick now practice that I use and that I use with my kids. So what I do for that is I simply come to my senses. So I'll close my eyes and I will think, okay, what am I smelling right now? What am I tasting right now? What am I feeling right now? And then, I can feel my heart beating. I can feel my breath going in and out of my lungs. What am I smelling right now? And what am I lost track, the 5 senses. Anyway, I go through all of those and I just kind of sort of come to my center, and basically it helps me to inhabit this moment right now. So number 10's maybe not as exciting, but to me it's actually probably my favorite thing that I've quit, because when I remember to do that, and it's something that I keep having to practice and keep having to remind myself, but when I do, I start to inhabit this knowledge of, hey, this is my life. This is my life right now. Exactly here, whether I'm driving on the freeway or washing my hands or whatever, like this is my life. The other thing is you can't judge it. You can't be like driving down the freeway and going, yeah, but this sucks because I'm in traffic and my car's crappy. Like you have to let go of judgment too. Anyway, highly recommend The Power of Now because it's a book that I never really get tired of. Every time I re-listen to it, I learn something new and it reshapes my life and gets me back on track to living the kind of life that I want to live. Okay, so I told you that there was a bonus one, and this is the bonus. This is the one that I'm quitting, that I'm really not there yet, but I absolutely know it's going to make me so much happier. And that is I'm quitting caring what other people think. Even as I'm saying it, I'm like, oh, but not yet. I'm not quitting it yet. So I'm sort of a junkie at worrying about what other people think, but I'm definitely trying to let that one go. So I'm so glad that you watched this video. Tell me in the comments which things that you're quitting to get going on your life, and so that you'll have space to pursue your multiple passions and interests. And also, pretty please let me know what your multiple passions and interests are. And I am going to put a few of them in the comments below so that we can get to know one another. I'm so excited that you're here, and I'm so excited to talk to you in the next video.